Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dad Lit Pod.
Welcome to the Dad Lit Pod, the literary podcast for people who know Leonard Skinner is not just one person in the band. Tonight I'm joined by Andy Ivey. Andy was once the voice on KCLW 900 AM. He channels his fifth generation Texas roots into his debut novel, Castle Gap, a tale forged along the Pecos River. He also pens the Hamilton Pocket Almanac, an annual guide supporting nonprofits in his farming and ranching community. A steward of a small homestead outside Hamilton, Texas, Andy lives with his wife, two sons, and draws from the land's grit and lore to craft stories that resonate. And according to him, he is in his garage operating from a generator because of a storm, which is the most dad lit thing imaginable when you think about
Yeah, preparing for the unknown, right, Dan? You got
it.
to
You
you got to
got
do the
to.
hard work.
I mean, I had to replace an HVAC system. And in the 3 days when the HVAC wasn't working in Virginia, when it was 100 degrees outside, my marriage almost collapsed. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, Dan, I did that to my poor wife one time, and I refused to go get a hotel room, and I can't explain to you why. Like, what would have been the problem of just going to a hotel for a couple of days, man? But I just, for some reason, refused to give up the homestead. Like I wouldn't give in to the
Oh,
heat.
yeah.
And in hindsight, I'm like, dude, like I really boiled my marriage for a couple of days on that one.
Oh, man. It is. I mean, I was sleeping down in the basement. She was sleeping upstairs with the fan running. My daughter was down in a room in the basement to keep cool. The you couldn't cook anything because, of course, the second you turned the stove on, the entire house became 110 degrees. So it was miserable. We spent the, you know, horrible amount of money to get a whole new HVAC system. And now we're all comfortable. We're having a great summer.
Yeah. What is your dad approved temperature for the summer for your AC unit?
We do 73 degrees.
Oh, nice. We're at 75. So
Really? Your
yeah,
wife
I get away with it.
tolerates 75?
I think she likes it. Honestly, I think if she wanted 73, that's where it would be.
Really? Because in my house in the wintertime, my wife opens the windows and runs the blade, our ceiling fan. That's how cold she likes it, and she has three blankets.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's like we have a wood stove, so we can heat the house with a wood stove. We have a regular heater as well, but it's
Yeah.
like there's something fun about turning that wood stove on and throwing some logs in there. I guess that's the same as like making it artificially cold, but then having all these blankets that warm you back up.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's cold, but it's not too cold. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
voluntary hardship maybe is what you classify that under.
Voluntary hardship. Makes you work harder and sleep better.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
we have to invent these hardships now because modern life is so easy.
yeah, it's called camping.
You are you guys big campers?
We are huge campers. We love camping. Um, we are going to be camping in 4 weeks.
Oh, nice.
And
The countdown has
we
begun.
the countdown has begun. In Virginia, you do not camp between June and Labor Day because of how hot it is. It's just really unpleasant. Um, the best you can hope for is to go out into West Virginia, get down by the river, and that's a little cooler. But you're gonna have a campsite right on the river, or it's gonna be a million degrees. I don't know how it is in Texas. I've never camped in Texas.
Yeah, we're on the edge of the hill country, which is beautiful, but I said edge. We're coming out of a 3-year drought, and we are pretty much the westernmost county that you can have livestock on natural grass.
Oh,
So
okay.
we can grow like improved pasture land out here. We grow coastal Bermuda, and God gives us enough rain to do that. If you go west of us, you don't get enough rain for that. So we're like on the edge of the desert, but it's beautiful country. Although we are coming out of a 3-year drought, so super happy it's raining today. It's a great sign.
Yeah, are you in that part of Texas where when it rains, it just really comes down and it's basically a torrent because the ground can't absorb it fast enough, so it turns into like a foot rush. Or do you guys have enough vegetation and enough ground to take that rain in?
You know, that's a real livestock thing where when you have a drought and you lose your grass, if it does rain, the rain doesn't do anything
Yeah.
because there's no material for the rain to latch onto. And that really is a real principle that you need grass so that when it rains, it'll stop the water and slow it down. So out in West Texas, where actually the novel is based in West Texas, where my family is originally from, it's very much like that because it truly is the desert. And
Yeah.
if it rains, there's nothing for the water to slow the water down.
Yeah, my best friend Alex Marriott, who's been on the pod, he lives in Houston, and Houston actually is able to absorb a lot of rain. They're just not able to absorb a hurricane for 4 days of rain, right?
Yeah, they figured that out the hard way.
Yeah, they figured that out the hard way. And I think that's interesting because obviously when I've spent time in East Texas, I've actually never been to West Texas, but I would love to go because I hear it's beautiful, particularly the area around the Rio Grande. And to my mind, that just open space with those rolling hills is just a recipe for destruction if you get flooding.
Yeah,
There's,
for
there's
sure.
nothing.
For
There's
sure.
nothing
Our
standing
West
between
Texas is
you.
beautiful, though.
Oh
Absolutely
yeah.
beautiful. And there's mountains out there, and people don't think there are mountains in Texas, but there are. They exist.
So where are you located in Texas now? So you
I'm
Castle Gap is set in West Texas. So where are
Yeah,
you
Castle
located?
Gap is a
And
real place.
yeah.
It is a real gap between King Mountain and Castle Mountain, which was how you figured out your approach to the Pecos River. So if you
Oh,
were
okay.
taking a herd of cattle if you had a stagecoach service that was going through West Texas, you would look for that pass, that gap, and then that would guide you to one of the few places where you could safely cross the Pecos River because it used to be a pretty sizable river. It's not anymore, thanks to the state of New Mexico stealing all of our water. That's for the sequel. The second book maybe will cover that story, but it's an absolute real place. And my family raised cotton in that part of the state along the Pecos River.
Mm.
But I live in Hamilton, which is 2.5 hours southwest of Fort Worth and 2.5 hours northwest of Austin. So we're not near anything. It is awesome.
So you're actually pretty you're I want to say the right angle of Texas where it goes up and it connects with that little thin part of Oklahoma. You're probably due south of that right angle, right?
Yeah, so the panhandle of the
Yeah.
state is a solid 6 hours from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's It's a heck of a drive, but we are Waco. If anybody knows Waco, we're an hour west of Waco, which is where that couple does the home improvement show. I don't
Well,
Joanna
I mean,
Gaines.
we're
I
we're
forget his
we're
name.
we're dads, so we know what Waco.
Yeah, okay. So if you've been forced to go on the trip
We-
to Waco, I will tell you the only upside to that trip is you can get some pretty good barbecue.
oh, I bet.
So that's if you find yourself in Waco, like at least know you're going to get a good meal out of the deal.
I was gonna for so for those well, I was gonna say I know Waco from two things, obviously the Branch Davidians and also Kinky Friedman's the Wacko from Waco.
Oh yeah, I think you ran for
Yes,
governor one time.
he did run for governor. I've met him before he died. My dad's a huge Kinky Friedman fan, and I'm a huge Kinky Friedman fan. And what was I going to say? So, for the uninitiated, because we have a lot of Canadian listeners,
Yeah.
Texas barbecue is a beef barbecue versus
Yes.
the pork barbecue from St. Louis and South Carolina, which are the other two styles of barbecue. What would you say is the best barbecue place in Waco, Texas?
Oh, Terry Black is where you have to go.
So, Terry Black in Waco, Texas.
That's if you're in Waco, that's where you're going to get the best barbecue. There is a
So,
Terry Black's in Austin, and there's one in Dallas. So if you're in those towns, you can get some good barbecue too. They've expanded. It's a beautiful place too. You'll love it's you eat with your eyes first, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. What are you making tomorrow, assuming the power comes back on for 4th of July?
Yeah, my go-to is Texas barbecue, right? I'm about to do the non-Texas food item, pork tenderloin.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll
Pork
tell you the trick
tenderloin
of
is
pork.
good smoked.
Yes, you smoke it, and my trick is you use two rubs, and they have to be contrasting flavors. So you use a generic pork rub, which is usually like a garlic, salt, pepper type thing.
Yep.
And then on the outside of that, you use a separate rub that's a different contrasting flavor. I use coffee grounds. Coffee grounds, I think, make the best product, but that is a sacrificial layer, and it's just meant to protect the first rub, and it
Hmm.
works, buddy. And it totally, when I started doing that, it totally changed the quality of my barbecue. Totally was improved.
That's interesting because I went to South Africa, I want to say 5 years ago with my wife, and they love barbecue in South Africa. And they do a pork tenderloin barbecue as well, but they grill it. And what they do is they do salt, pepper, and mustard, and then they wrap the entire thing in bacon. And then they put it
Oh,
right down in the coals.
yeah. Okay, that would
And
work.
yes, and that
That would be okay. Yeah.
yeah, that comes out real good. And then the other thing I discovered is Jamaican curry. So Jamaicans have their own special curry. It's like a Jamaican Blue Mountain curry. And you can just use kosher salt and Jamaican curry and really, really layer it on there. And I think that works out great. Andy, you there?
Hey, we lost we lost power, or we got power back, and then we lost it again.
In typical
What you gonna
dadlet
do to fix
fashion.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the utility that we have out here, and I won't name them. They're right now just cycling on and off, on and off, on and off,
Yeah.
which is can't be good for my generator.
So let's talk about
But
Castle Gap because obviously after discussing great dadlet things, we should probably we after discussing great dad things, we should discuss even a mild amount of lit.
yeah, we should balance the two. I guess that would probably entertain the audience.
If they're not already if they haven't turned it off from our discussion of West Texas and strategies for cooking pork loin.
I have listened to every episode of your podcast, and I think we are totally in the wheelhouse of your target audience. Um, I love it. I because it's like you never know where it's going to go, but it's just sort of it's always PG rated topics with generally likable guys.
Yeah, so the Dad Lit Pod. This is the thing I'll say about it. Uh, Everyone I've ever talked to has always been ready to just talk about whatever and to have a good time. And the other thing is, once the podcast is scheduled, we never reschedule. Everyone's always ready. I've never had to reschedule a
No
recording of the
way. That's
Dadlet
awesome.
Pod. Yeah, and I've done
What do you
now.
think about how disrespectful people are about schedules nowadays? That's amazing.
Yeah, oh, it's crazy. See, it's crazy when you think about it. And we've never had to reschedule. So I will ask now that you brought up the pod. Wait, do you have any suggestions for because you're clearly the target audience. You've listened to the pod. Is there anything that's missing that you want to get more of?
Well, it's the thing that's missing is what's missing in independent publishing altogether. Where are all the thriller authors?
Well, the thriller authors, we've got some coming on. I'll say that. I've got some thriller authors coming on. Um, a lot of a lot of thriller authors are um are really hitting it out of the park. And I'm looking to get them on, but at the same time, they're the real dad lit genre that I've found is crime. Dads love to
Mm.
write crime. And crime and thriller sort of walk a fine line, I think. Because I would describe your book as a mystery, a thriller, and a crime book.
Yeah.
The sort of psychological thriller, I don't know a lot of dad writers that are doing the psychological thriller. And I'll be honest, the reason why I think that is because mainstream publishing is very intimidated by male interiority. And it is very difficult to write a psychological thriller from the male perspective and make it attractive to female readers,
Oh, that's interesting.
right? Because if you're writing sort of a what's her name? Colleen Hoover. There's the female mindset is, well, he's hot, he has a wife, I'm going after his wife to get with him, but she's, this and she's that. The alternative to that is sort of almost a very kind of aggressive and desirous. I like to compare it to if you ever seen the television show You on Netflix. When you get that level of interiority, what tends to happen is the male character gets kind of um, eh, feminized. Uh, it's a lot about feelings. It's less about pursuit and about this sort of like uh, perspective of what male fantasy looks like and that sort of stuff. And I think that's very challenging in a psychological thriller, unless the male character is a villain. And then you can definitely do it, right?
Mm. Yeah, that would make sense.
A friend of mine calls it the nice guy. He's like the sort of like nice guy character. He loves his wife. He loves his children. He does the right thing. If he steps out, it's because of them. And the sort of intensity of male sexuality and male desire and all those things that you had in like the 1970s with Taxi Driver being a perfect example of a thriller that's very focused on like male fantasy and that sort of thing, or Portnoy's Complaint, or all those things. That tone and that pursuit is not a friendly vision in a thriller perspective. Uh, and so I think male characters get very muted unless they are pure of heart and pure of spirit and super good guys.
Absolutely, man. What a what a crazy thing to wander into as a debut author to be like, hey, we're gonna go do a thriller, and then you look at all the great male authors that have done thrillers with zeros on the end, right?
Yeah.
Like huge followings, huge series, to the point that they have like other people to write them. You know,
Yes.
what's the joke? You only have to write three, and after that, you can have someone else do all the work.
Yeah, yeah, someone else will do it. Well, who are your
Which I don't know why
favorites?
you would like. That seems like you're if you really enjoy this, like that would have to be uncomfortable to allow that to happen. But do you even control your own work after a period of time?
I'm going to be honest with you. I am trying to sell my thriller. I wrote a thriller for my wife. It's
Yeah, you
based,
mentioned that
i-
on the X today. I think that you had a thriller
yeah,
that was unpublished.
yeah, and it is based on actual experiences that we had, and I wrote it from a female perspective. It's a female protagonist, and you know, I am sort of, sending it around. And when you get responses or comments on it, it is always, this needs to be pared back, less description, more action, less description, more action, more sort of interiority, but
Mm-hmm.
like fear interiority, that sort of stuff. And I think about books like The Woman in Cabin 10, which I tried to read and I became immensely bored instantly just because of the nature of the writing. It's just like it's boring. Um, and I'm like, wow, I bet this had a lot of wonderful, beautiful description and a lot of interesting stuff in it. And when this person submitted it, the editor said, nope, bare bones. Got to get to the inciting incident. Got to make things happen as fast as possible. I 100% can imagine that's what went on, which is, I guess, what people want. I don't know. I mean, what is your thought? Who's your best read right now? Who you're really enjoying from the thriller perspective?
Oh, the clear number one, not even close, is CJ Box.
People
Clear
love
number one.
CJ Box, man.
He can develop a character with the fewest words possible. I don't know how he makes you fall in love with the Joe Pickett's family, and he barely describes these people.
Yeah.
It's like it's just I don't even know how he does it. He's got a wife, he's got a daughter, and you're like you really care about what happens to his family because of course somehow this game warden always has to solve a murder, which is
it's,
ridiculous.
it's constantly happening. I
Absolutely ridiculous. The guy's
yes.
on his like 23rd murder. that he has to solve. Um,
I think he posted today. He's got a new book that he just
I
sent
know he's
in.
doing them once a year,
Yeah.
which this may be faster, but my developmental editor I'll tell you who it is. This may be a mistake because other people are going to book him up and he's not going to have time for me, but it's Edmund Pickett. And Edmund Pickett is a super talented guy. And he has written his own thriller, which is good. But also he's done some Mark Dawson thrillers, and Mark Dawson's a pretty
Oh,
respected
okay.
guy.
Yeah.
And he made me throw out everything.
Oh, I bet.
And when I don't want to understate this, Dan, he made me throw the entire book away.
Yep.
And he was like, so here's how it went down. I was going to write, I was going to be the next Larry McMurtry. That's what I thought. And I was going to write a pared down Lonesome Dove for the new generation. And
Yep.
so I wrote that and I sent it to a, university press editor that I paid to give me their feedback, an editorial review. And she said, "Hey, this is great. This is exactly what a university press is looking for, but you wrote a mystery, and you need to rewrite this as a mystery." So I threw away, or I rewrote 20,000 words of this thing.
Yep.
And she said, "Hey, you need to get a developmental editor. You have some real common problems." And I went and found this developmental editor, and I sent it to him after the 20,000 word rewrite, and where I turned it into a mystery. And
Yep.
he's like, "Hey, man, no offense, but you need to throw this away and you need to rewrite it from memory, because if you try to fix this, it's going to get so convoluted and so confusing. You're going to introduce so many errors that you'll never be successful. You need to just start from scratch and stop describing everything." He's like, "I did all the info dumping, Dan. I did all the info dumping on West Texas. I was like, I was your tour guide. And I
Yes.
told you all about the history because I know all the history." And I'm like, "Tell you all the history of West Texas. I tell you all the geography of West Texas. I tell you all the background of every character in the story." And he's like, "No one wants any of this. You've got to throw all
Oh
this away."
man.
And so I rewrote the book
Oh,
from memory and sent it to him. And only after the second time I reviewed it, I only had some really minor plot holes that he helped me fix. And then I went to a different copy editor because I wanted another set of eyes on it. And I'm paying for all of this along the way because I'm a big believer that you get what you pay for.
oh
So if you're
yeah.
getting free editing from someone, I just want to say personally, I think that's a mistake. You should pay for good quality editing. And I paid for a copy editor to clean up a couple of things, and then we published, and or we're going to publish October 21st. But it's been ready for it'll be 6 months. So the advice I got was, after the book's finished, take 6 months before and set the publishing date out 6 months from now, and that'll give
Yep.
you time to just sort of tell people about it, because your debut work is going to get no traction, right? It's like
Oh yeah. You
it's
don't
impossible.
exist. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at least you have some hope in 6 months of maybe getting a little bit of traction, which, hey, I made it on Dadlit Pod. I don't know what else you could ask for.
Yes. Well, believe it or not, there is a Dadlit pod bump.
Sweet.
With yes, which John Duffy observed, but I think that was because um I pinged Alex Perez who had retweeted John Duffy, and I talked to John and I've read his book and I really love it. And he's an independent press called Picket Fire Press. And
Oh, yeah, that's a really exciting project.
yeah, and so Alex Perez retweeted John or something John said, and I'm like, "Hey Perez, while you're, talking about Ray Carver all day and getting a dead guy's short story sold, why don't you actually review a contemporary male author like you keep insisting, needs to be resurrected?" And I think that's what did it.
That's awesome.
But
Well, maybe I told you that we had a surprise. You want me to tell everybody the surprise that
what's the
we have in
surprise?
store? So I have set up a Goodreads giveaway to coincide
Oh
with the
yes.
this episode. And so if you're hearing this episode, you have until July 20th to go enter into a Goodreads giveaway and get a free copy of Castle Gap. And I was like, how do I reward Dan for his time? And I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
that's so
I was
nice.
not going to do a Goodreads giveaway. And then I was like, you know what? I can, it's not that much money. I'll do one. I don't expect much out of it, but if somebody wants to get a free copy of the book early, that's the only way to do it.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you so much. One of the things that I am consciously aware of is how tough it is to market a book. It is so tough. And one of the things that is so important is for authors to know where a person found out about their book, right? Like from that standpoint, that's worth everything is to know I heard about it on a podcast. I saw the cover and I love the cover. My friend told me about it. It came up on a YouTube video. Man, that stuff and having the sort of return on investment analysis and knowing that there is no one doing that in book marketing right now. I had a book marketer on and I asked her, what is the best ROI? And she said, I don't know. It depends on the
Yeah, I
project.
remember that. That was cool.
And it's just like there's got to be a way to measure that and to know so that people can put their effort into certain things. So what does your marketing plan look like for Castle Gap?
Yeah, so I reached out to some reviewers and I did some pretty expensive reviews. So I
Yeah.
have a Kirkus review
Yep.
and
Which is
I
$400 for anyone who's wondering. Yeah.
wild, absolutely
Yep.
not worth it. Absolutely
Yes.
not worth it.
We call it the book review industrial complex.
Yeah. It
Yes.
just I don't know. You read about marketing plans and everybody is like, well, they won't put you in a library unless you have a Kirkus review. And I'm like, man, I maybe I could survive not being in a library because paying the Kirkus tax was insulting.
It is the Kirkus
Uh
tax. I agree with you. So you saw my post about the influence of the ALA on books, right?
yes, I
And
did actually.
and
Yeah, that
and
was a good post.
someone said underneath that, where did you get this? How are you saying this? The way to make money in publishing is to market books to librarians. Librarians buy books for their constituency and they buy a lot of books. So if you market to middle grade or the teen demographic, which librarians want to put books in the hands of, or children, or alternatively, you write books for older people or that are attractive to older people. What I would call sort of the CBS broadcast, Touched by an Angel type books, librarians will buy your book. And when you have an instant New York Times bestseller, usually the reason for that is that all the libraries bought it because they thought it would be attractive
Oh, so that yeah.
to kids in schools and middle schools and high schools. And that is how people become middle grade and teen. That's why there are all these YA and middle grade authors who are making money versus
Yeah.
adult fiction authors because if you can convince ALA members when they go to their convention that this is the hot new thing and all the kids are going to love this in the high school and they're going to come down to the library and they're going to want to read it, you can sell a lot of books. particularly in urban areas and, at the state level and all that other stuff. It's similar to the textbook issue, which is something you in Texas know about, which is that textbook companies structure what they put in the textbook to make it appealing to either Texas or California, because Texas and California are two very populous states that purchase a lot of textbooks. And I don't think we talk about it enough. I don't think we talk about enough that librarians are actually dictating what most people have access to and what the major publishing companies are publishing.
Well, and isn't that the reason why so many of us that are self-publishing will still use Ingram Spark?
Yeah,
Because we're
exactly.
told if we don't, you're not going to get into
Anywhere.
libraries and traditional bookstores, which we all know traditional bookstores probably aren't going to pick you up anyway.
Yeah, at this point, the traditional bookstore, I think, is more of a what would you call it? It's a tastemaker, right? So the traditional bookstore, at the back of every Barnes and Noble, they're selling DVDs and records, LPs, toys, and coffee. In the middle are or not manga, Japanese comic books and romantasy books, and then obviously the classics, as it were. And in between that, if you can find a place on that shelf, your publisher is paying for it, right? Your publisher
Oh,
is
just like
paying.
same with any of the awards that you can get.
Yeah, same with any of the words.
It's pay to play, buddy.
It's pay to play, man.
And it
And
once you look behind the curtain, it's so radicalizing. I have been radicalized because I thought if you were a New York Times bestseller, that meant that you wrote a good book.
no,
That
well,
it doesn't mean that at all.
have you ever read James Patterson's commentary on the New York Times bestseller?
I don't
So
think so. No.
James Patterson pointed out that when you write a cop book, they will resist putting you on the New York Times bestseller. So it's the what is it? Not Us Weekly. There's a different magazine that actually bases it on sales, and that is the
Oh,
real.
Publishers Weekly.
Yeah, it's either Publishers Weekly
Yeah.
or not
USA
USA
Today or
Today.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's somebody like that. So their list is actually the list that tells you from like an accumulation of books sold what is the most successful book. Um, but yeah, no, the industry is really fascinating and um, interesting. And if you actually want to get into it, you want to sell books, understanding what they want is really important, right?
Yeah.
At the
Very
same
important. And
time,
they're not
if
looking for
you're
me, buddy. The
I
I'm
had a
I'm
I had
all the
a
wrong things, and I'm writing about about rural, you know, rural small town America.
well, okay. So I'll say this. I'll say this. Now I've been trying to get books published for 3 years. One I have four manuscripts. Um, I like to think they're good. I was able to get an agent. I put them in front of people. People who read them really like them. Um, I had an editor on my horror manuscript say that she didn't like the voice, that the voice kept her from being into the characters. And I think, and I had talked to my agent at the time, And I genuinely think it was because it was um, a book told from the perspective of villains that I'd told it
Oh, interesting.
from that perspective, that I'd written sort of Stephen King style book because I'm from Maine originally. And so I wrote about a small Maine town, and all the perspectives in the book are men who are dealing with despair. And so the despair itself leads to both villainry and heroism. And I describe it as an intersection of It's a Wonderful Life and The Shining. That's how I would describe the book. And it to that extent, I think that there's a blunted desire in the big publishing. They want blunted books. They want something that's going to have mass appeal. They actually don't really want anything that's challenging because challenging can be off-putting, right?
Yeah.
Um, that 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 in and of itself um, is it's driving men away from reading fiction because I think you and I would both agree if somebody cool came out, like CJ Box is pretty cool. He's a guy who hunts and fishes, and he's always out there hunting and fishing, and he sells books about a dude who's a family man and who's responsible and competent and thoughtful and also able to fix stuff. And I think you and I would both agree that a character like that is desirable.
Yes.
And so let's get more of it. You know what I mean? Let's get more of it. And, reading your book, for example, your protagonist is a very moral person. He's a dedicated person, and he is willing to rough people up. And he's willing to rough people up because they deserve it. And they deserve to be roughed up. And I think that's challenging in like we should all be navigating different people's perspective world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's a little
Absolutely.
bit, yeah, there's a little bit of Texas there. And I don't think it's a surprise that a lot of the dad-led authors I interview are Texas authors. Yeah, yourself, Alex, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of dudes in Texas writing books right now.
I
And
love it.
yeah, it's really great. And I love Texas, so I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, the spirit is supposed to be self-reliance and independence.
Yeah.
Obviously you aren't self-reliant and independent. No one is in the modern age. We all are
Yeah.
very interconnected and dependent on each other, but it's where that's not the reality of your life, but you still value those things. And I think that's why Texas has this kind of unique swagger, is that is what we value, is the ideal of being self-sufficient and independent, even even if maybe that's not achievable. And it comes out in this, this sort of what you see in the world today from the state. But we maybe have a little bit of inflated egos too. But um,
Yeah, but
what are you
it's
going to do?
it goes beyond independence, right? The pride is about yeah, we talk about uh, a lot of people, particularly looking from the left wing perspective, see everything as if someone wins, someone else loses. But in reality, when someone does something productive, and innovates or works hard or, creates a situation where there's profitability, that's what's called a plus one exchange. And I
Yes.
feel like people in Texas are all about that plus one exchange. They
Yeah.
love that. They love,
Yeah. The fixed pie thinking is so wrong. The idea that if you have a piece of pie, there's one less slice of pie for everybody else. No,
no,
we
no,
can bake
no.
more pies.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. We got someone in Texas making more pies right now.
Yeah, we're making more pies, baby.
Yes.
And
In
that's what you
Texas, yeah, you
that
keep going, keep
entrepreneurial
going.
spirit, man. We need more of that. And maybe I think Gen Alpha has it. I'm feeling pretty good about the kids today.
Well, that's good because the previous generation is pro Osama bin Laden,
Yeah, the
which I don't know how that happened. That's weird.
I'm Gen X, and I'm like, which means like I'm just it's hard to get me engaged, right? And my
Yeah.
joke is, once I'm engaged, you wish you hadn't engaged me. It's like the only thing worse than me not being interested is me being interested,
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm going to get real interested.
The Gen X is very reactive and very common sense. It's like, oh, you want to hear what I have to say about that? You're not gonna like it.
You're going to regret this.
You're gonna
I
regret
was a
this.
latchkey kid, man, and it was great. And I'm from a loving, deeply connected family, but I had independence and unstructured free time. And we have twin boys. That today is actually their 18th birthday,
Oh,
and
congratulations. Where are
yeah,
they
we went to
going?
Top Golf. They're seniors. They're going to be seniors. They did the what's called the Texas Red Shirt. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. So they play
Yeah, where you
football.
when you have a boy, you hold him back before
Yeah,
kindergarten so that he can be big enough to excel at sports.
yeah.
That was not the
Yes.
reason. They were July birthdays, and we wanted them to be school ready. And they are smart kids, but they they're part of this generation. I think is going to be okay. I also coached for several years. I coached crew rowing, and the athletes
So
I coached, man, I think are all going to be really good adults.
so you're a tall guy and you coach crew?
Yeah, I'm 6'5". Yeah, I competed for a few years.
Yeah.
But I didn't find rowing until I was well past my competitive age. I was probably 30 when I started rowing,
Oh, okay. Because
so I
I
missed the
was
boat on
I
that one.
was track and cross country. I was all state track and
Oh,
cross country.
nice.
And then when I got
We
to
are cross
college,
country state champs out here in Hamilton.
oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
That's a big win.
yeah, a little 2A school, man. We do some pretty cool stuff out here,
Ah, that's
and I
awesome.
was elected to the school board, so maybe I'm a little biased.
Oh, an elected man. We should
Yes,
talk
that's
about
my
that.
one and only foray into politics. I do
Oh,
not
it's a
recommend it.
it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Don't There's no upsides. There's zero upside in involving yourself in politics if you are even a remotely honest person.
Yeah, so I was recently 4 years president of my HOA, and we have the absolute worst people.
Yeah, it
In a
attracts
tr
the powerless. And
Yeah.
the what's the rule? The rule is, for leadership, if someone wants to be in charge, that is the last person
Oh
that should be
yeah,
in charge.
don't let them. Don't let them. Uh, and my approach was, okay, we have all these things we need to fix. We need to fix them. Having a bunch of money in a townhome community sitting in a bank account doing nothing because the older people in the community think everything is too expensive doesn't make sense. When we have a pool, when we have sidewalks, when we have stairways, when we have all these things. And the funny thing about it is, if you're an honest person and you are honest with people and you walk into a meeting, you never have anything to be afraid of because you will. always be able and willing to tell people hard truths because that's who you are. And the dishonest people are constantly afraid. They're always like trying to dodge
Oh,
things and make
seems
stuff
so
up
stressful.
and lie. And you're just like, man, just be honest with people. And that's the best way to go. And yeah, it was a very weird thing that when I was originally, I got irritated because they towed my car, and that's why I ran. And
Oh, your origin story.
yes, yeah, my origin story. Yes, and this woman in my community who I think is actually senile, but she's also horrible. Uh, Went around because she's been here forever. And she went to one of my neighbors across the street and she said, can I get your proxy? And my neighbor said, no, I talked to Dan and I'm gonna give Dan my proxy. And this woman said to my neighbor, she said, I know about Dan and he is gonna kill your cats. So
Oh,
this woman came to my house and she said, Dan, here's my proxy, but I have one question. Are you gonna kill my cats? And I said, I didn't even know you had cats. And it turns out she feeds stray cats. And
oh,
Helen,
wow.
uh, the woman,
Uh-oh.
Helen, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not on the board now, so I
Oh,
can say this.
okay, good,
Uh,
good.
because I retired. And Helen told her that I was going to kill her cats. And I'm like, how low a stakes job is HOA board member that you would go to my neighbor and lie to them and say that I was going to kill their cats? And I'm actually very pro cat.
Yeah, it's important to get that on the record, but
Yeah, to get that on the
politics is,
record.
yeah, politics is worst when the least is at stake.
So when did you join your school board?
So we moved here 3 years ago, and I've been on the school board for 2 years.
Was
I
it
endeared myself to the community because I had a little bit of a TikTok following. I'm not even on TikTok anymore, but I did TikToks about what it was like to move from the city, from Dallas to the country,
yeah,
and build a chicken coop and put in a fence and buy goats and go to the sale barn and buy steers and raise all these animals for the very first time. I had no background in any sort of ranching. And so I did TikToks about what this was like, and I had a pretty good following. And then they tried to put a solar farm in my town.
yeah,
And if you are like, I don't care how you feel about this, but if you live in a rural community, you have a very different view of wind and solar than people that live in the city, because you are out in nature and you are a steward of nature. And here comes a very artificial, very mechanical object that does not belong in nature. And I oppose this.
yeah.
And I was very vocal, and I used my social media following to make life difficult for the politicians that voted for it, because this was not private industry. This is all tax handouts to big corporations.
Yeah.
This is anything but a small capitalism at its best. No, this is crony capitalism,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
endeared
I
myself
think
to this rural community through doing that. So
you would say if someone wanted to put that on their own property, you would give it. You wouldn't
yeah,
care.
without using my tax dollars, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're taking money from me to do it, I have an opinion and I get to voice it.
Yes.
And so I did, and and not everybody likes me. Obviously, it's probably half the town loves me, half the town hates me, but everyone knows who I am because of that. And
Yes.
I actually, uh, one of the things I learned is if your social media following gets big enough, it gets very negative. And I
Yeah.
didn't like it, and I don't think that I wasn't making any money, but I thought any money I could make off social media was going to be insignificant, so I just deleted it.
Yeah.
Just deleted my whole account, scrubbed everything.
So I completely empathize because the Dad Lit Pod, to me, I want to be a positive space, right? I want it to be a productive space, where I'm connecting people. And to that extent, I don't think I'd ever want to have advertisers. I'm just not interested in it. You know what I mean? That's not to say that I don't want, connections with publishers and to engage with publishers because engaging with publishers and communicating with them gets us more dad lit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can empathize with that. It's not an area of my life where I'm interested in making money. I want to influence to the extent where I sell more books to dads.
I believe it, man, and I see it. But if I think if you ever changed your mind and this was a platform you could support your family on, I would I would support you, man. I think you could do this
Well,
without being a problem, without going to the dark side.
yeah, I don't know what the dark side is though in the
It's
publishing
it's
world.
where we can't trust what you're saying is true. Is it
Yeah.
your bought and paid for opinion, or is that still Dan?
That is a good question. Though I do try to um my politics are in my books and are written in there. But at the same time, because I think that dads, you know, there's so many ways to view the world and so many approaches. And this sort of vision or idea that one is always going to be the best. I just don't believe that, right? Like I think that there are great ways and great messages underlying many traditions. I think, for example, I'm a Jewish guy, and so I raise my daughter with Jewish values. And at the same time, for example, I look at Mormon families and I say, man, are those people the happiest people I've ever seen? You know what I mean? And there is
Yeah. Oh,
just a huge,
I went to a hockey game in Salt Lake. The Phoenix hockey team moved up there, and
oh, did
when
they
I travel,
really?
yeah, when I travel for work, I always go to a sporting event, and the Salt Lake City hockey team crowd is the friendliest crowd you've ever seen.
Yeah, I was down in New Orleans. I went down, my wife was at a conference there. And I was there the week after Taylor Swift was there. And I took an Uber, and the Uber driver said to me, he goes, "You know, whenever we have an event down here, there are a lot of drunken miscreants who are completely insane. But when those Swifties came in, they were the most polite people I've ever met in my entire life,
Wow.
and they tipped so well." And I thought if like T Swift and I might not agree on many political ideas, and I'm a New England Patriots fan and not a Kansas City Chiefs fan, although I love the Hunt family. But the idea that her fans are two working people, the most polite, best tipping, best engaged. I mean, that says something about the artist and about the fans. And maybe we can all learn something about that, or
You're
from
right.
that, right?
You're
Um,
right.
and and I'll say this, for a lot of my youth, I was a pretty intolerant, annoying young man. I think we all are when we get out of college and we're in our 20s and we're annoying and we want to, get laid. and we have opinions and all those things. But Adam Carolla has said this a zillion times on his podcast, and I think I brought it up before. When you hit 30 and you're a dad, you just chill out and you're just a normal dude.
Very
And
laissez-faire. I'm
yeah,
very,
you're
yeah,
just
very, yeah.
and that in and of itself is a great thing. Like you just meet people like that, and dads, I think, can get along universally, as this podcast has demonstrated. Is that there's sort of universal qualities that we all have as dads.
Yeah, and you if you take your responsibility as a protector of your family seriously, then that right there is something that, all these dads can bond over.
Yeah, and
What's
wanting the best for everybody. You know what I mean? Just wanting the best for your family and loving your kids and navigating all of that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and the
man.
sacrifices you make, and I like the reality that all dads kind of share this understanding that there's a lot of problems they have to deal with that they don't talk about.
Yeah.
But you can sort of nod and tip a glass to a guy, knowing that that's a shared hardship. If he's an active parent, you don't even have to discuss it. He's going through the same things you are.
Yeah, I think if particularly if I have a daughter, you have two sons. I think if you were to walk up to any dad that has a son and you could just say to them, I've been there, man.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
You're
You know.
doing a good job. Do you think so this is a thing that I think is really interesting, which is that your generation and my generation, because I'm a analog millennial, I'm pre-dig or pre-digital millennial, pre-computer. Um, I think our parents and our dads were, I'm not going to say checked out, but they were not as directly active. And we as kids just went out and did our own thing.
100%, man. Not just that you were had unsupervised time, but I'm not even sure they went to my baseball games.
No,
Like, I don't
my
remember.
no.
And now you not only go, but half the parents record the thing. Like, who are
Oh
you
yeah,
recording this
no.
for,
I don't
man?
I don't think there's I trying to think of um I think my dad went to states. My mom and dad definitely went to states and went to regionals. But like if we were away, like at another school, they didn't come.
Yeah, that
You
makes
got on the
sense.
bus, we the other team had a real home field advantage. And
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it makes sense. And I think when I've been on the earth long enough to have a little bit of data observation or anecdotally where you look at the parents who are super super involved, and you look at the parents that are super not involved, and I don't think either group's kids turn out really great. But the people in the middle, where their kids have some unstructured time but they still know they're loved and supported, those are the kids I think that really go out there and perform well. And one of my favorite things to do, um, this is maybe a little bit of a tangent, but one of the things I like to do, and I would challenge everybody else to do this, is when you're in one of those moments where you want to reach for your phone and take a picture, don't do it. Just
Yeah.
sit there and know that this moment may be lost, but there's like I feel a power over everybody else has their phone out and everybody else is staring at their screen, and I'm just watching the event itself and
Yeah.
enjoying it for it as what it is, a temporary moment. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah. So where are the boys looking to go to school? They're going to be
Well,
in
we have a
state.
football player and a basketball player, so I think it's going to
Oh.
be a real late decision, would be my guess.
Yeah.
because we have destroyed college sports. So it will not be a D1 school, and it will not be JUCO because we've destroyed that. So it'll probably be a nice little NAIA D3, D2 school, which will put them in a study hall, give them somebody who's going to make sure they go to class, is going to give them a trainer that makes sure they stay healthy.
Yeah.
I felt like when we've toured these schools, the small schools, even though they don't have a lot of money to give a kid to make it cheaper to go to school there, they're offering things outside off the field that matter to a parent. Where the
Yeah.
D1 schools are like, yeah, we're going to go win some games.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, is he going to get an education? Is he going to be okay? He's going to be looked after. Like what about the rest of them?
Yeah.
Like they're not going pro. So, but I have this theory that if you look at CEOs, top tier salesmen, really, really successful people, at least in the corporate world, they have one of two things in common always. They either are ex-athletes or they're immigrants. And I
Yeah.
believe it's about hardship. So immigrants have hardship that they don't have a choice. Life is tough. They have to acclimate to a new country. And if they excel in that, then they've overcome that hardship. And that's why they're successful. I
Yeah.
think the only way,
The South Asian
yeah,
experience, particularly people from
yes,
India, Vivek Ramaswamy, JD Vance's wife, uh, the, high achievers, absolutely high
hi.
achievers.
So
Yeah.
how do you, if you can't, if your kid's not an immigrant, how do you artificially create that hardship? And it's through sport. Sport
Yeah.
is how you engage in voluntary hardship, because hardship is what builds a strong person.
Yep.
And
Resilience.
so, yeah, so we're shopping for hardship is what I'm doing when I think about what my kids are going to do in college. So,
shopping, shopping for hardship.
but they're going to be good no matter what. I've told them I don't care if they go to college. I'm an IT guy. Um, my staff that works for me, I couldn't tell you if they went to college or not, man. It
Yeah.
it, it just has never come up. Couldn't care less. And these are highly successful people that are extremely well paid.
Oh man, I think it's I know so many successful people who didn't go to college. You know what I mean? And I know so many successful people who went to college, and that college experience is not what made them successful. It
Right.
was the willingness to take a risk. The willingness
Mm.
to take a risk in America today is so powerful and so it presents an option for success that is so great. And I think one of the things that I myself it took me a long time to take a risk because writing a book is taking a risk. It's risking time. Querying and engaging with agents is taking a risk. Starting a podcast is taking a risk. Meeting strangers on the internet
Mm-hmm.
and Zoom engaging with them is taking a risk. And I'm gonna be honest. I did not for a long time in my life did not have that confidence and did not have that ability
Oh,
to do
sure.
so. And so
Yeah.
when I think about my daughter and I think about like things I'd really like for her is ambition. But I don't know how you teach ambition.
Man. So who has it and who doesn't? And the only thing I can figure out is that who has it are the people that had the most unstructured time, yet lived in a developed country where they had access to technology and good medicine and good nutrition. Like
Yeah.
there's plenty of unstructured time in Africa,
Yeah.
and but they don't have their poverty is such a huge problem that they don't have the means of that unstructured time being as beneficial as a developed
Yeah.
country. But I think we do a disservice to our kids. And I would look to the middle class in China as the great example. We created a middle class in China the Western companies that went there and and built infrastructure and outsourced work to China, that produced a middle class in a country that did not have one. And
Yep.
what did they do the second they got a middle class? Is they filled every second of their child's day with activities. And they've produced extremely smart young professionals. But
Yep.
what do they struggle to do? They struggle to solve previously unsolved problems.
Yep.
So if you give them a problem that the solution exists, they will go find that solution faster and better than anybody. But if you give
Mhm.
them a problem that has not been solved before, they struggle because that is a creativity problem, not an intelligence problem, not a
Yep.
regurgitation problem. And I think that sort of problem solving comes from unstructured time, and that you need to build a kid that has unstructured time in their day.
Yep. I think that's right. I don't know how to engineer scarcity, though, from a perspective of a parent, right? That's kind of a because you and I grew up with scarcity because now we live in an America that it's so infinite in its like material good that like um like tablets cost as much as 3 weeks of bananas. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it's
bananas
wild.
are $8 and a tablet because I just bought one for the podcast so I could read ARCs. 8 weeks worth of bananas is going to cost me $120. I can buy a tablet, which would be inconceivable when I was a kid. I mean, it'd be the most, be 600, $700 for $50. Uh, I don't know how you sort of explain that to, a young kid under those circumstances and capture that idea of scarcity.
I don't
Um,
know,
yeah, it just
because it's abundance. They
yeah,
live
it's
in a world of
abundance.
abundance at the end of
Yeah.
that iPad.
Yeah, well, it's an abundance of data, right?
Yeah.
It's not
Well, and
necessarily right. It's not an abundance of steak.
what's the joke about data? The more data there is, the cheaper or the lower the quality of all of it is.
Yeah, yeah. Which is why I hate AI, by the way. I
Oh,
just
AI
hate AI.
is a terrible thing, and
It's so stupid.
if
It's
you're a huge AI fan, one of two things is occurring: either you're selling it, and so you're incentivized to love it, or
yep,
you haven't really used it. With a few exceptions. So for programmers, yeah, it's really good at going and finding code. It does search and summary really well. Like it's going to replace your web searches, I think.
yep,
And it solves what's called the blank page problem, which is what so many people get lulled into, where you have a blank page and you got to write a report for school or whatever, or you got to write an email and you let AI get you started. That's a
yep,
beautiful thing, and it does a good job of that. But if you don't put your soul into it, I can tell immediately when I receive your email that you didn't write that.
yep.
AI wrote it. It's so obvious. And guess what? I'm insulted that you didn't take the time to write that yourself.
Yeah, it's insane.
And
Yeah,
God forbid you
because
write a book that way.
yeah,
They should
because
hang you by your toenails somewhere if you're doing that.
yeah, I mean we're not worth beyond beyond the idea that it's insulting to people. The idea that you're going to export human thinking to an algorithm
Mm.
is so misguided and so weird and so terrible. Uh, because what you've done is you've created a loop in thinking where all you do is reinforce contemporary ideas without doing anything to innovate. And that's such a disaster. It's such a mistake. And there's no way. that the people who are using AI know what is in that code. If you want to talk about the prospect of autocracy and the dominion of sinister people, the ability to corrupt that code and to direct your answers and to direct your level of knowledge to serve somebody else's need is terrifying. It's absolutely
Well,
terrifying.
these people that have built these models knowingly stole data and put stolen data in these models, and they did it because they knew they could get away with it. And that's how
Yes.
they rationalized it to themselves, is I won't be held accountable for this, therefore I'm going to do it. And people like that should not be trusted.
Oh, absolutely not. No, it's theft.
They're the worst of us. And
Yeah.
they want us to applaud them for being so innovative.
Yes. Thank you for heroically stealing from everybody else. And
Yeah.
then
Come
by
on,
the
man.
way, going into your system and writing outputs or corrupting outputs to serve your own needs. Are That's the most insane thing you could imagine. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
but they're supposed to be our tech heroes, right? The best of
Indeed.
us,
The
but
best
they're
of us.
soulless
The best of us.
or they're
Well, first
corrupt.
of
I don't know
all,
what it is. Corrupted
they've
souls.
all they've done is created digital cigarettes. I mean, that's what 90% of social media and websites are. They're just digital cigarettes.
Oh, that's so
Which
true.
is
But
why I love reading books and why I've loved coming back to books.
and I like them
Bec
on paperback, buddy, not ebooks.
I
Ebooks are
do.
great. Buy
I
I'll buy
do
my
like.
ebook, but I like it. I like the tactile. I like to feel it, man. I like to hold it, and I read on airplanes. That's where I get almost all my reading done. So I turn the overhead light on, and
Yep.
I grab that paperback and I fold it over and I twist it. It's mine. I own it. I'm using this
Oof.
book. It is I'm consuming this information. And I just man, it's just so satisfying.
This with the podcast, I like to get EPUBs so that I can put them on Kindle purely because I just don't have space for the physical
Ah,
books. And the other thing is, I love hardcover books, but if I get a hardcover book and I don't like the book, I see it on the shelf and I'm like, oh, that's a book
mm.
that I don't like, that's taking up space. And I'm so resentful of it.
Well, you can
But
sell them on Amazon, right?
I know I can, but if this is the thing, if someone sent me a free book for the pod, I would hesitate to sell it because it was free and it
Oh
was
yeah.
from them. I
Yeah.
did have this
There's a little bit of
idea.
you in that. You
Yeah,
know, when
there's a
I
little bit. Yeah,
like a little bit
exactly.
of yourself in those first copies of that book you send out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I had this idea that I would fund the podcast by raffling off books to Patreon subscribers. That I'd do like everyone, if you wanted to subscribe, you would be entered in the raffle. And then I'd raffle off the book to Patreon subscribers and send it to them. But then I realized that at some point, if I got enough books and I didn't get enough Patreon subscribers, I'd actually be throwing money out of my own pocket
Yeah.
to send these books to people. And I was like, yeah, that probably wouldn't work. Yeah. So,
Well, yeah. I don't know, man. You could try it, but on the AI thing, I don't know if you noticed on the copyright page of Castle Gap, I wrote a disclaimer that the common disclaimer authors use is, I don't want anyone to use my book for AI. I didn't put that in there. I put in there that I did not use AI,
yes.
like a reverse disclaimer, where I'm like,
Yes.
hey, I'm committing to you that nothing in these pages you're about to read involved artificial intelligence at all.
Yes. Good
And
for
I think
you, by
that's
the
going to
way.
be That's going to be normalized. And I think when it is normalized, it's going to be some sort of graphic you put on the back cover that's like a, a no sign with
Organic fruit.
AI and a
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
something
organic
like that.
fruit, or it's the kosher K.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah,
there's people want to be told before they consume something if it was really human originated or not.
yeah.
And so I'm like, hey man, this book, flaws and all, even though it was professionally edited. So I like hopefully there's none of those types of flaws, but it's like, this book is there's a guy that by himself sat down and wrote this.
Yes.
And this is the story that he thought needed to be told. And he's who did this, not some sort of robot somewhere, not a computer
It
somewhere.
is a chiseled work of humanity.
Yes. Yes. A flawed human being did this with their hands.
Yes.
And I I think people want to know that, or they're going to soon. I think there's
Mm.
going to be a real pushback against AI at some point, even though I do think it is revolutionary technology. But I think there'll be a pushback, and people are going to want to know where it exists and why. And authors need to, I think, disclose whether they used it or not.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
And hopefully,
Yeah.
it's a no. Like,
Yes.
I'm not buying your book. I don't care if the cover was AI generated. I couldn't care less. But if
Yeah.
the inside of your book is AI, even augmented, and it's still your words, but they were polished by a no, man, I'm not gonna spend my money on that product.
Well, okay. Well, we're over time, but that's because I'm enjoying this conversation so much.
Oh yeah, sorry,
This
buddy.
is no, no, don't worry about it. I'm having a great time. And my wife isn't usually the wife calls me and she's like, Dan, you've been podcasting for an hour.
I love it when it's a verb, you know?
No, but the now I forgot what I was gonna say. No, the issue with uh creating and producing things is that there is meaning in making the thing, that writing it and agonizing over it and having the process of being there and reading other books and learning how to write things is in and of itself a valuable experience. And when you tell me like, oh, well, you just use AI to, smooth out the edges. No, you should smooth out the edges. You should enjoy smoothing out the edges.
Yeah,
That
develop your skills.
develop your skills. Like this is the bands that auto tune. You know what I mean? Like, but when they're live, they're garbage because they can't
Mm,
sing.
yeah,
The point is, why wouldn't you have the pride and the sense of self and the feeling of achievement of actually producing something? That's the that's what you should be doing. You should feel great about that. That should be the point. It shouldn't be, oh, well, I wrote this using AI and I did like a thing and I went in and changed the characters' names. It's like, no, the
yeah,
achievement,
wild.
that's the achievement. And then you think as a dad specifically, if your kid came in and said, Dad, I used AI to write my term paper on the Alamo, you'd be like, well, what did you learn about the Alamo? Nothing. That's what they learned about the Alamo.
Yeah, you learned how to use a tool.
You
with this,
learned how to
you
use a
should,
tool, which
you
you
should, but that
should.
wasn't the point of that exercise.
That wasn't the point of the exercise. You know?
Yeah, I think
Like
we're
what
going to
do
go
we,
back to kids writing papers in class, and I
oh
love it.
yeah, blue booking. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
love it.
So
Let's go to a
great.
classical education, man.
By the way, the
Um,
teachers are definitely going to have to teach those kids how to do their penmanship. And we're going to go
oh,
back to
please.
cursive. The one thing is, I'm a professional historian. So the fact that, like, for the past 10 years, none of these people know how to read cursive has been a real boon for me professionally. Because being able to read
No
cursive
way.
is
Gosh. Yeah, that
absolutely
totally is a problem, isn't it?
a
When you're trying to read
problem.
historical handwriting and they
Oh,
can't
you
do it.
can't read anything. They can't read
Oh, wow.
anything.
What a weird problem to have.
Yes. Yep. It's like knowing another language
Yeah,
and they don't know it. And
I
so
never
to
thought about
my
that.
from me professionally, it's like, oh yeah, great. No, I know cursive, so sorry.
Yeah,
But when you are a historian and you're hiring people for historian jobs, you have to say, can you read cursive? And if they can't read cursive, sorry, you can't do
gosh.
the job.
What a weird. I had never thought of that. Damn, you're the first one to ever like bring that up. That's wild.
Yes. Well, this is from my when I was doing documentary histories from the War of 1812 and the Spanish American War. It's if you can't read cursive, you cannot be an American historian before like 1941,
Man,
which is interesting.
it's hilarious. I love it.
Well, sign us off. Tell me about Castle Gap, and we'll close us out.
Oh yeah, the book. Yeah, Castle Gap. We're doing pre-orders July 21st. The book comes out October 21st, and it is really a story about how small towns solve problems. And it'll be fascinating from someone who's not from a small town. Folks from small towns read it and they're like, "Oh yeah, man." It's also it's a thriller that has no curse words. It has no sexual content, but you probably didn't notice that because it's like it is well written, but it's like I just did not include those because I wanted to appeal to a broad audience.
I did
And
not
it
notice
follows,
that it had no
yeah, isn't
sexual
that cool?
content, by the way.
I'm so proud of the fact that I was able to do
It
have two
felt
characters
like
fall in love. They,
it
you
felt
know,
like it had
Tacey,
sexual contact.
yeah, Tacey and Chase fall in love, and of course she runs afoul of a bombastic mayor and a corrupt local government and goes missing, right? And
Yep.
Chase goes and tries to find her, and he has to navigate this closed community, right? This rural community, and what do rural communities like to do? They like to solve their problems quietly.
Yep.
I always say with unspoken consequences, right? So everything is in the dark because we all need to save face. And he sort of forces them to come out in the open with what happened to Tacey. And it's a wild ride. It's funny that um, the Kirkus review said it was pulpy, that it was a page turner, and that you would stick with it till the end, but it wasn't a serious work. It was just a fun read, you know. And I think if you call it pulpy, that's a compliment, but they didn't mean it as one.
Yeah.
And then the other reviews that have come in, my favorites from Likely Story, Alex Norton's are really just has a great website, and she's like, "Oh, it's a deep reflection on rural life and small town, politics." And I've had a couple other reviews that are like that. That it's like, "Oh, it's he's pulled beyond his moral bounds," and you really think about fate and about how your actions may be predetermined. And I'm like, how is it both a pulpy page turner and this deep reflection of like a moral, the moral challenges of navigating a closed community? I'm like, yet somehow that seems to be what it is.
Well, congratulations. I think
Yeah.
it's a fairly straightforward mystery and thriller. To me, the protagonist sets out to understand a problem. He's presented with a complication. The complication becomes the primary incentive to solving the problem, and that he does so. It's interesting that they've uh, glossied up what is, to me, a straight thriller about small town sort of malfeasance and espionage.
Yeah,
Well, not
correct. I think
espionage. What would be the
no,
word for it?
it's corruption, it's graft,
Corruption.
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
crony capitalism. It's handouts to
yeah,
your buddies,
yeah.
and
It's about corruption and the cost of it, and
yeah, and the
uncovering
human
it.
cost is sometimes high. And the wild thing is, this is all based on actual events.
Oh,
These are
nice.
stories from my radio days that actually occurred in small towns in Texas. These
Hmm.
things that you read about were originally disjointed events in the very first draft of the story, that I was like, these are things that really happened in Texas towns that people never really came to grips with. Because what do small towns do? They solve everything quietly. It's all swept under the rug. And like,
Yep.
you've had people die and there's no closure for the community. And so I took these disjointed events that actually really occurred in towns like mine, Corpus Christi, suburbs of Fort Worth, and I wove them into a what became a coherent thriller, but a cohesive story. But um, there, these are all real things that happened, and I fictionalized them because I think fiction is the only way to deal with serious issues. People who think
Oh, yeah.
nonfiction is where serious stuff happens, no, you get too distracted with people and places and time. Fiction allows us to take really serious issues and actually tackle the core of them without being distracted by people and places and time.
Yep. I think the most comparable work to what you wrote is the Netflix show Bloodline, which is set in the Florida Keys, which is sort of about a corrupt family. But that's told from the criminal side versus the discovery side. Uh,
Oh,
yes. And so if you're interested in that as well, that's really good. And of course, I sent you my own local towns where we had a bunch of people steal dirt.
yeah, that was interesting.
Which is what
I
we were
mean, stuff
dealing
like this
with.
happens.
It's just
This is set
universal,
in
man.
Yeah,
It's
this is set in West
universal.
Texas, but man, this is the story of small town life anywhere in America.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And for the
Man,
Canadians, probably Canada too.
it's just power and corruption, man. Power and corruption.
The good old boy club.
The good
And
old boy
we
club.
explore that thoroughly in Castle Gap, I'll tell you that.
So you can get Castle Gap coming out in October.
Yeah, you can pre-order the ebook now, and July 21st we'll have the Ingram Spark stuff, the hardcover and the paperback pre-orders available as well.
Awesome. And now available early on Goodreads.
Yeah, man, there's a
And
giveaway that starts right now.
I will put both the giveaway address and Andy's address in the Dadlit Pod description. And go out and get a copy of Castle Gap and get some West Texas crime fun, man. Thank you,
Awesome.
Andy.
Thanks, Dan. That was a blast.
Thank you.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit Pod.